As I'm sure you all know, Newcastle are edging closer to a deal that would see ownership pass from Mike Ashley to Sheikh Khaled bin Zayed, who is the president of the United Arab Emirates. His net worth is believed to be about $18 billion, but his family is estimated to be worth a whopping $150 billion. Newcastle fans are understandably ecstatic as their underfunded but historically rich club might now be the next team to get taken over. Newcastle's potential takeover is quite comparable to Man City's of 2008. The current owner Sheikh Mansour is also the president of Abu Dhabi and had a net worth of $17 billion at the time of the takeover, very close to the $18 billion of bin Zayed. City's takeover was a quick success due to a strict business plan that entailed savvy transfer business and putting the right staff in place. City's transfer business started off a little shaky with the statement signing of Robinho from Real Madrid for a British record transfer fee of £32 million. The Galacticos signing didn't work out as his stint at Manchester only lasted 18 months due to poor performances and injuries. City also spent £12 million on Wayne Bridge looking to shore up the defence, but he only managed to make 42 appearances over 4 years at the Etihad. On the bright side, more successful business was done, and arguably their best, to start off a takeover. Vincent Kompany was bought from Hamburg for a mere £6 million. The Belgian would go on to captain the side to 4 league titles, 2 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, and was rightfully put into the all-time Man City XI. Kompany's right-hand man was also brought to the Etihad that season. Paulo Zabaleta was bought from Espanyol for £7 million and initially wasn't supposed to be there for the long run, but after impressing week in, week out, the Argentine became a first-team regular in the blue side of Manchester. The reason why I'm breaking down each transfer from City's early takeover days is because there's an important trend that could affect Newcastle. Both of City's unsuccessful transfers came from dominant sides such as Real Madrid and Chelsea, who weren't playing the same style of football that City played. Although they might have been quality players, they just didn't match the less dominant play style of Man City, and therefore didn't gel well with the squad. On the flip side, the signings from similar stature club, whose play style was similar to City's, gelled perfectly with the City squad and went on to be a success. With Steve Bruce currently in charge of the Magpies, they must look to get in a manager with the capability of developing a squad to a high standard. And based off of Bruce's history, he's not the man to do the task at hand, since his greatest honours consist of runners-up medals and championship playoff wins. Mauricio Pochettino is heavily linked with Newcastle as he's not currently managing a team and can take a side from mediocrity to stardom. What made his time at Spurs so successful was that each transfer was a gamble. Prime examples of this are Dele Alli for £5 million from MK Dons and Eriksen for £11 million from Ajax. He's recently stated that he's opening to listening to projects, and I can't think of a more exciting project in world football at the moment than this takeover. So now that we've identified the suiting manager to undergo this takeover, it's time to scout the players of the right calibre to start the renaissance in Newcastle. But before they go out and pursue new players to join the club, they must first identify the key players currently at the club. The £40 million Joe Linton had a terrible season up in the northeast with 1 goal from 31 appearances, but with 5 years left in his contract and previous success at Hoffenheim, it's worthwhile keeping him as the club's starting number 9. In an utterly underwhelming attack that scored the league's least goals, there's a shining light in the form of Alan St-Maximin. The 23-year-old completed 4.4 dribbles per 90, the league's third best, and made 1.3 key passes per 90, doing his best to help the lacklustre Joe Linton bag a few. The Toon regular John Joe Shelvey was the side's leading goal scorer from centre mid with a mere 5, showing just how inefficient Newcastle are in the final third. Shelvey also made the most key passes in the side with 1.8 per 90, but once again his creative output wasn't put to any use, as his assist tally sat on 0. The only saving grace of Newcastle's season is that their defence wasn't as bad as their attack, and this is mainly down to outstanding performances from Fabian Schär in centre-back and Dubravka in nets. Schär made the second most tackles and the second most interceptions in the side, cleaning up at the back, and when an attack led to a shot, he blocked 1 shot per game, helping out his keeper. The big man in nets, Dubravka, made the most saves in the league, with 117 at a 71% save ratio, only bettered by Arsenal's Bernd Leno. The Slovakian also kept 9 clean sheets, the 5th highest in the league, which is probably why Newcastle aren't worrying about playing championship football next season. After identifying the side's key players, the transfers brought in must not replace these players, but thrive alongside them. I think the positions that most need addressing in the Newcastle side are centre mid, winger, full back and centre back. A reasonable transfer budget to start off this takeover would be around £100 million, and with suitable signings, it can be put to great use. There's arguably no better time to go on a shopping spree as clubs all around Europe are going through financial difficulties due to the break caused by COVID-19. Because of this, clubs will have to let go of players they previously might not have in order to keep the club running. Starting off in centre-back, I think Leeds' 22-year-old Ben White would partner Schär very well with his defensive contribution. White appeared 37 times this season for Leeds, which is great to see that a manager such as Marcelo Bielsa has put his faith into a player regardless of his age. The Englishman made 4 tackles and interceptions, which is the second highest in the squad, an incredible figure considering he's the last line of defence in a team that averages 60% of possession. White is competent in possession with the best pass completion rate in the side and completing on average the 4th most passes. This talent could prove very useful in the Newcastle side that averages 40% possession and has an average of 74% pass completion. The promising young player could be taken away from his parent club of Brighton for around £15 million in the current market, which surely would be a risk worth taking. Moving on to wingback, Denzel Dumfries of PSV Eindhoven suits the role of Newcastle wingback very well. The 24-year-old featured in the Europa League 6 times, impressing on every occasion. He made a whopping 5 tackles and interceptions across the tournament while winning 3 aerial duels per 90. From this we know he's defensively solid, but as a wingback the role demands quality going forward too. Dumfries managed to score 7 goals in the Eredivisie, ranking him the joint top goal-scoring defender across Europe. Dumfries also offers creativity going forward, making 1.1 dribbles and 1.2 key passes per 90. It's possible these stats could rise as he plays as a fullback at PSV, whereas he'll be playing as a wingback at Newcastle where there's more offensive freedom. The Dutch international could be pried away from PSV for around £20 million and would surely put in the performances to make the fee worthwhile. Moving on to centre mid, where we have to find a partner for the attacking-minded Shelvey that can both defend and contribute going forward. For Newcastle's sake, it's probably more important that he contributes going forward, as they play 5 at the back so they can be left to defend, and that Newcastle are the worst in the league in attack. With this in mind, I think Morgan Sanson of Marseille suits the role perfectly. The 25-year-old is the perfect box-to-box midfielder. He makes 3.1 tackles and interceptions per 90 and contributes in every way going forward. Sanson progresses the ball, making 1.5 dribbles per 90 and keeps his head up as he makes 1.1 key passes per 90. The key passes he made amounted to 4 assists last season. Sanson could also directly help Newcastle's lack of goals as he scored 5 goals last season from midfield. Considering he's nearing his prime years and there are 2 years left on his contract, Marseille won't want to let him go for cheap. His market value is around £20 million, but I can imagine him playing in black and white of Newcastle for around £30 million, and that's a good price for a quality midfielder for years. Now we look for a winger to solve Newcastle's lack of goals, whether it be through scoring them himself or creating them. Sassuolo's Domenico Berardi had a fantastic season, scoring 9 and assisting 5, improving on his last season of 8 goals and 4 assists, while playing 1,200 minutes less. His stats back up that his excellent goal scoring and assist record isn't a fluke. The Italian took an average of 4.1 shots per 90, which is always a good sign that he'll score consistently. The 25-year-old makes an impressive 1.7 key passes per 90, which explains his assist tally of 5. He also performs 1.4 dribbles per 90, showing he's not afraid to take on a man, which leads to him getting fouled 2.4 times per 90, which could be crucial for a team like Newcastle to grab some goals with their big lads like Joe Linton or Lascelles. Berardi can also slot into striker due to his clinical finishing. He appeared up front twice for Sassuolo last season, scoring 4, which shows he can cover for Joe Linton when he's out of form. Another important factor in this transfer is that Sassuolo are a mid-table side just like Newcastle, so there isn't a playstyle difference that he'll have to adapt to perform well. If this transfer were to happen, I could see Sassuolo accepting £35 million for their star player. This fee, along with our other transfers, amounts to exactly £100 million, and I can't see a better way to make use of this budget. Now that we've scouted and bought the right players, let's see what the Newcastle starting 11 may look like after the first transfer window of this takeover. In nets we have Dubravka. In left wing back there's Matt Ritchie. In centre back there's Fabian Schär, Lascelles and Ben White, who we bought from Brighton for £15 million. In right wing back we have Denzel Dumfries, we acquired from PSV for £20 million. In the centre of the park we have John Joe Shelvey and Morgan Sanson, we bought in from Marseille for £30 million. On the wings we have Berardi, we got from Sassuolo for £35 million, and Alan St. Maximin. And up front as our number 9 we have Joe Linton. There's no guarantee of instant success with a project like this, but I've improved the squad all across the board, and over time that'll show on the league table. I can imagine this squad finishing comfortably in the top 10, but maybe not quite challenging for European football just yet. With the information regarding this takeover still up in the air, all we can do is wait it out and hope for the best. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.